Hey there, Pyromaniacs. It's finally out. After all the wait and anticipation, and Craig, we can finally play Halo Infinite. And while I do have my complaints, the majority of the game is incredible. It's been so long since the last Halo release, and even longer since the last good one. But luckily, I've had other Halo things to play in the meantime, thanks to
independent game designers.
While not as common as Sonic fan games, there are quite a few Halo projects that have come out over the years to tide fans over until the next official release. So I thought it would be an interesting idea to look over 5 of the Halo fan projects that have kept me occupied up until the release of Halo Infinite. Keep in mind, most of these are technically mods rather than fan games. There are Halo fan games out there, but most of them have either been talked about ad nauseum or they're still in development, so there's not much to say. With that out of the way, here are 5 Halo fan projects that I found kind of interesting. The first one that I want to talk about is also the weirdest. Halo Revamped for the Sega Dreamcast. Yeah, remember the Dreamcast? I didn't think so. This game was made back in 2011 on a modified version of the Quake engine. And to be completely honest, it's rough. Both visually and mechanically. To be fair, this project was never actually finished, and didn't really even get that far. But the idea of a homebrew demake of Halo's multiplayer for the Dreamcast is definitely an enticing one. That being said, it still has its fair share of issues. When you first start up the game, you get this really lovely chorus of wailing demons that you have to immediately mute in the settings or else go totally insane. And yes, it's all downhill from there. While I know this is more of a flaw of the Dreamcast controller itself, the lack of dual analog support really threw me off. The aiming controls are basically the inverse of what you expect from a modern shooter. Face buttons on the right to move around, and the left analog to aim. As you see from some of the footage, I really struggled to adapt to this simple change. Luckily, it is a Dreamcast game, meaning that it does have mouse and keyboard support, so if this is that big of an issue for you, you can just do that. The more glaring issue, though, that you've probably already noticed, is that the muzzle flashes render as giant black boxes that obscure your vision. This obviously makes it impossible to see what you're shooting at. Oh yeah, and the game crashes whenever you try to pick up a new weapon. You can't make this up. While Halo Revamped is an interesting novelty, I really can't recommend trying it out unless you're just really curious. Apparently, there are newer versions of this homebrew on PSP and 3DS that have fewer issues, so I might try those out someday. But as for the original version on the Dreamcast, the weight of your heresy will stay your feet, and you shall be left behind. Next up is Battlefront Halation. As the name suggests, this is a conversion mod for Star Wars Battlefront 2 that adds new maps and modes that, for me and many others, fulfills a lifelong dream. The ability to experience large-scale UNSC versus Covenant battles from the point of view of a simple run-of-the-mill soldier. It's so cool being able to take part in a battle as anything from Marines to ODSTs to Hunters to, yes, even playable elites. Suck it, 343! That being said, the battles definitely feel a bit skewed at times. Anytime I play as the UNSC, I either lose spectacularly or barely win by the skin of my teeth. Sure, it may be lore accurate, but there definitely needs to be some rebalancing for the sake of fairness. Luckily, that rebalancing is still a realistic possibility. This mod was released back in 2015 and is still getting consistent support to this day, with the latest update having come out in May of this year. I'd say if you have a PC copy of Battlefront 2 and like the idea of experiencing the true struggles of the Human Covenant War, go ahead and check this mod out. Also, if the lighting looks a bit jank, that's not the fault of the mod makers. That's because a lot of the maps here require a lighting mod that I just sorta never installed. So please, if you do install this mod, don't be like me. Just install the lighting mod, you'll have a much better time. Next up is one that I've actually talked about before, a long time ago when I had a considerably worse microphone that sounded like I was talking through a tube filled with styrofoam. Halo SPV3 is an overhaul mod for the original Halo Combat Evolved, adding new encounters, new weapons, new enemy variants, and even armor abilities to the base campaign of the first Halo game. I sang this mod's praises to high heavens 3 years ago, and after coming back to it, yeah, it's alright. While it's cool having a bunch of new stuff to play with in Halo C's sandbox, it does feel a little cluttered and can throw off the balancing of certain levels. either making them considerably harder or insultingly easy. Considering this mod has been in development since 2003, it's pretty apparent the team has just been tacking on new stuff they thought would be cool to have without giving much thought into how it would actually affect the base game. That being said, I did enjoy my time with this mod. It's not the definitive Halo experience I claimed it to be back in 2018, but it's definitely a new and interesting take on a game that I've played multiple times before. If you've played Combat Evolved on several occasions like I have and want a new way to experience the game, then there's no harm in giving this one a try. This next one is another weird one, and also technically kinda sorta illegal. El Dorito was a modded version of Halo Online, a cancelled free-to-play game exclusive to Russia that in itself was a modified version of Halo 3. This game was incredible for the time. Despite a large handful of differences, it was basically people's first taste of Halo 3 on PC. El Dorito made a ton of improvements, not just Halo Online, but even to Halo 3 itself, introducing an expanded and enhanced Forge mode, a custom game browser, and even deeper color customization. You know, just all those things that Halo Infinite currently doesn't have. It didn't take long for Microsoft to learn of this game, which was, at its core, a cracked and illegally distributed version of their intellectual property. While Microsoft allowed the servers to stay up, the El Dorito team were no longer allowed to distribute the files for this game, leading to a stagnation in the player base. The excitement and support behind the El Dorito project actually did incentivize Microsoft to finally port the Master Chief Collection to PC, which was great, but that choice only helped to put the final nail in this game's coffin. Now, if you open up El Dorito, it's a ghost town, with most of the player base having moved on to the official PC port of Halo 3, and more recently, Halo Infinite. The story of El Dorito actually leads perfectly into the final fan project that I want to talk about. And it isn't a mod or even technically a fan game, but instead a game made by fans of Halo. I want to take a bit of time to talk about Splitgate. In the same way that Gunvolt is based on Mega Man and Spark the Electric Jester is based on Sonic the Hedgehog, Splitgate is heavily based on the arena-style 30 seconds of fun gameplay loop of the Halo games, with a twist. That twist being that this game also features the ability to shoot portals as a way to find shortcuts around the map, or even to get a quick vantage point to pick off other players. This game isn't a carbon copy of Halo. It has a personality and aesthetic all its own, but there's still a ton of Halo influence in this game, to the point that this was the main game that I played to tide me over until Infinite's release. The thing is, it seems like this was the mentality of a lot of Splitgate's player base. To many people, this was just a way to sate their appetite before the main course of Halo Infinite. Splitgate has an identity all on its own, and I'd hate to see it die off just because people see it as the waiting room for Halo Infinite. I looked it up, and it does seem like the player base, at least on PC, has been dropping ever since Infinite released, so I highly recommend you try this game out. Not because it's similar to Halo, but because of what it does with the Halo formula that the Halo series could never in a million years get away with. Thanks for watching. If this video does well, I'll consider making more of these types of videos, so make sure to leave a comment below about any Halo fan games I should check out. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and become a pyromaniac yourself by subscribing. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friend. Really? Now, while I'm doing my outro? Come on! Oh god, oh hey, Sonic! Yeah, you look great! Did you do something with your bloodshot eyes?
Pyro, I need your help.